Hi there, I'm Brittany McDonald.
I'm Eddie McDonald. We are from AGL Coaching for Good, where we're building a world where everyone can wake up and love Monday.
Absolutely. And we're here with Jordan Mazza. I hope I got that name right, your last name.
Yes, you can say Mazza, Mazza. There's debate about the A, how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Excellent. We'll just roll with it.
Yeah.
Jordan and I have known each other for several years. And I think for you, waking up and loving Mondays started pretty early. Started with figuring out what you wanted to do in your life, what your purpose and passion was, and then figuring out how to go about that practically. So you and I have worked together. You're a former client. You're now a realtor and just very recently a coach in training. So congratulations on that step.
Yeah. So Jordan, we just met. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. We know a bit about the realtor background and coaching, but more of your story.
Yes. So as Brittany said, we did some coaching. It actually was many years ago at this point. It feels like it was just a couple years ago. And that sort of started my journey of what do I want to be when I grow up? And I thought that I had an idea. I really didn't want a career path at the time. And let me go back. I grew up in Massachusetts, where I currently reside. I love traveling. I've been around the world, and through some of my distance learning college studies that I did when Brittany was my coach, I was able to live in Alaska. I was able to live in Japan, and I had some wonderful adventures all along the way. So Massachusetts is my home. I love this area, though I have contemplated expanding, going somewhere else. So I love I'm jumping around a little bit, but back to sort of what I'm passionate about and what has been sort of taking shape over the last, I would say probably 10 years, is what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I didn't know until just recently that I was really passionate about coaching. I knew for so many years that I love improvement. I love to see growth. And that's so important to me, and it's been a thread throughout my whole life. I just didn't realize what it really was, and that I've been doing that this whole time as a real estate agent, coaching people, different topics, depending on what they're selling their home, buying their home, wait, go now, what they should do. And so it's kind of coming full circle now.
That's really cool.
It's fun hearing you. It almost feels like reminiscing, because I'm like, oh, I remember when you went to Alaska, and I remember when you were like, should I go to Japan? Seems like such a big jump. And looking back on the last several years, from my perspective, having been a coach and then a friend to you, it's really neat to see how you just keep putting the pieces in place and they kind of stack on top of each other. So I'm curious, maybe talk a little bit for a moment about how did that initial coaching experience impact you? How did that change your life and kind of set you up for the trajectory you're on now?
It definitely impacted me in big ways. I think the first thing that pops into my mind is that I felt like somebody believed in me, maybe for the first time. I have a great family, and they were supportive in many, many ways, but in the nitty-gritty of I've got to work on my assignments and I didn't do it. And then you would ask me, okay, that's fine. Well, what happened? And you would ask me questions that made me think about it instead of just being stuck or staying where I was without a way to get beyond that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How has that impacted you professionally?
I would say that it's helped me to be able to dig a little bit deeper and to start asking myself questions. Okay, what's going on here? Why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel like I can't get beyond this? What's actually going on? So I have a lot of sort of self-talk and introspection of how can I solve this problem? How can I get beyond it? And I would say another way that I really was able to utilize the coaching tools was also the time management. And I continue to practice time management, but it was something that really we were able to start that skill and start honing in on, okay, how do we structure the day? How do I make things happen in the right order so that I can get everything done I need to do prioritize, set SMART goals, all those things. They're such applicable tools. And I use them all the time.
Yeah.
Awesome. We've been talking a lot about flow lately. How do you be in flow, get into flow? What does that mean for our life, for our workday, especially for now that the world's kind of in, we're all at home trying to figure that
out of our old flow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For those of you listening who don't know, flow is where high skill meets high challenge. It's a fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Very alive.
Yeah. So as you've kind of started with that foundation, got some key skill sets, and even I would say probably some mindsets through coaching, what has that journey looked like as you've continued to explore paths for your future, and what really excites you and gets you alive in the morning?
So what excites me? What were the milestones along the journey?
Yeah, milestones to where you are now.
So honestly, I feel like only recently I've had the clarity that I've been looking for over the past probably 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a big chunk of the last 5 to 7 years, I was sort of like, I was going and I wasn't sure where I was going. I just knew that I was continuing. I was pressing forward and I was like, this isn't quite it. This isn't quite it. I love real estate and there's something more. There's something more. So I continued pressing forward and it really just all came together and became apparent. And then even the couple of times that I bounced into you and, met you out in Colorado, or we were able to, have an exchange over Messenger, and I just started thinking, and then you sent me some resources and I started digging into those, and I was looking at these coaching programs or these counseling programs, and I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. How do I do this? How do I get there? So those would be some of the things that sort of led me to this point where I was like, that's it. I'm going to do it. There's no reason to wait any longer. I know what I want to do, and I'm just going to make it happen now.
That's really cool.
Very cool.
Sounds like coaching really did change your life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we're really doing these interviews ultimately to encourage people to breathe kind of life and fresh perspective into their day. So if you could share one thing with people who are curious about coaching, to encourage them, maybe to spark some curiosity or some new energy in their life, what would you say?
I would say never give up.
Mm.
My mom always said, you only fail when you stop trying. And that's proven true in my life for the last 7 years, that I just kept moving forward and I just kept doing something, even though I didn't feel like it, I was quite settled into what I wanted to really, truly be doing. It was leading me somewhere. And to just add to that, there's a piece that you can't leave out, which is don't make excuses. Mm-hmm. No excuses. If you have a plan and if you want to get somewhere, even if you're not sure exactly where that destination is, the things that are going to stop you from continuing to try are making excuses or coming up with reasons why you can't do something, why you're not enough of this, enough of that, and whatever it is. So I think one of the things I've tried to do is really ask myself, instead of saying, well, it can't be done or it's not possible, I'll look at that, whatever obstacle it is, and I'll say, okay, how can I get around this? How can I make this thing happen? How can I keep going? So keep going. Keep going. Even if you don't know where you're going yet, you will eventually find really the answer, or you'll come to that conclusion. You'll get the clarity that you're seeking.
That's really cool.
It's a beautiful sentiment.
Rainer Marie Rilke says, sometimes you live yourself into the answer to questions you don't know the answer to yet. And sounds like what you're saying.
Yes.
I got very similar advice once, actually, from a lactation consultant of all people. She was a friend at church. We were just talking casually about life and coaching and work. And she said, never give up on the hardest day. Mm-hmm. If you can quit, you'll be able to quit when you're in a good day. So don't ever quit when it's hard. Mm-hmm. If you're going to quit, wait until it's easy. And if you still want to quit, you can quit.
That also does something to your mind. The way you view yourself is really who you are during the hard times, because you guys might think, oh, wow, Jordan's so hardworking or this and that, but you won't know all of the places that I failed, even just in my own eyes. So it's important to push yourself in the moments when even nobody knows you're giving up. And that happens usually in our minds first, right? And so that's important. And that's something I'm not perfect at yet, and I'm continuing to grow in and catch when I see it.
Yeah, it's a lot of inspiring words. Thank you.
Very inspiring words. And you've already said so much, but I'm just curious if is there anything else you would say to just encourage people to live their own story well, to find greatness in their everyday life? Anything else you'd like to share?
Well, that's exactly what I'm hoping to learn through the coaching program. I'm really passionate about helping people overcome their own barriers, mostly mental barriers, to becoming who they're designed to be, or to becoming their best selves. So I'm still looking for the answer to that, I guess.
I'm excited to have you now as a colleague, in addition to a friend of my wife's. So thank you for joining us in the journey of making the world a more engaged place.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for chatting about all this stuff. I think we need to have more of these conversations and help people dig into themselves a little bit. Sometimes it's a scary place and it's hard to do that alone. And I think that's an important element of this, is you need to have a supporter. You need to have a safe place in somebody that they can help you through these things, because you can't just go running at this by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
It's so true. Recently I had a conversation, and someone who actually hires coaches, her job is hiring coaches for a large corporation. And she said the interesting thing is that telling somebody about coaching for the first time is a little bit like telling somebody how to tie their shoes. Like, it's really hard if I were to sit here right now and try and say, Jordan, I'm going to tell you about shoe tying, to talk through that. But I think you've given us a beautiful snapshot into the impact coaching can have. And what's, I think, really great is that coaching does help with that engagement. It helps with that clarity. And sometimes it plants seeds. I know for us, we've had seeds planted all along the way. And there are different ways that those seeds grow and bloom and mature. But it's so exciting to see you all these days later, years later, just continuing to cultivate the seeds that we planted with coaching quite a while ago. And thank you for just staying in touch on the journey. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really foundational. It laid a great foundation for everything that was coming next. And that's what I appreciate most, is it was a safe place. That's what our coaching was, Brittany. It was a safe place for me to be able to be weak, to be a mess, to be crazy. And you were like, okay, let's sort through it. Let's do it. And pick up the pieces, throw some out, put some back, and be able to helped me to develop those skills for myself, so that I could then do it when you weren't there every minute of every day to help me get through all that. So
there you go, folks.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
George, thank you so much for your time today and for joining us.
Absolutely.
Great to meet you.
Thank you.
All right.